This is LSAT PrepTest 144, Section 1, Passage 1. This is the Schoenberg passage. It's a defense of a composer most people find unlistenable. Pretty low difficulty passage. The author's opinion is pretty straightforward, and so is the structure. But there's a trick at the top that will cost you points if you don't catch what they're doing. Now, this is a humanities passage. The author is arguing that Schoenberg's music deserves respect, not for its technical innovations, but for what it expresses emotionally. And that distinction is the entire passage. Before we go paragraph by paragraph, I want you to know this, that paragraph 6 is the one that matters the most. That is where the author finally says what they actually think. Everything before it is just build up. If you read the earlier paragraphs as being the main point, you're going to pick the wrong main point answer. Now, the passage opens up with a nasty quote. Somebody is ripping apart a piece of music. It sounds like a modern critic going after Schoenberg. That is what you're supposed to think. Then the author pulls the rug out. That quote is from 1806 and is about Beethoven's Fidelio. So that twist is doing a lot of work here. Before the author even makes an argument, the critics have already been undermined. The message here is that people said the exact same thing about Beethoven and they were dead wrong. So why should we trust the same complaint about Schoenberg? You've got to understand that this opening is the entire foundation of the argument. Paragraph 2 keeps the Beethoven comparison going. Both composers pushed boundaries, both got attacked for it. And there is one detail here you've got to grab. Beethoven's toughest work didn't catch on until after the phonograph was invented. The author's saying here that difficult music needs repeated listening. That is aimed directly at Schoenberg. The author never spells it out. You've got to connect it yourself. And the questions will check whether you did. Then paragraph 3 shifts to Schoenberg's early music. You want to read this one carefully because the author is doing something subtle. They pick Schoenberg's most accessible piece and say Brahms fans would love it. Then they slide in on that dig, saying people enjoy it once they get past the fact that Schoenberg wrote it. The author's saying the resistance is not about the sound, it's about the name on the label. That is evidence for the argument. The author's showing you that hatred of Schoenberg is a prejudice, not a real musical judgment. Now, paragraphs 4 and 5, you can move through those quickly. They trace Schoenberg's evolution. He pushed his harmonies past tonality. Then he invented the 12-tone system to create order in that new space. The author mentions Schoenberg saw himself as a man of destiny. That is, of course, a big personality detail, but don't let it distract you. These paragraphs are just filling in the timeline. There's no argument here. Now, there is one thing you want to notice at the end of paragraph 5. The author says the music got more condensed, more violent in its contrasts, then explains why listeners struggle. But the author states it as a fact, not as a problem. There's no sympathy for the confused listener. File that away. Then paragraph 6, you want to slow way down here. This is the whole passage in concentrated form. The author says the real question about music isn't how it's made, it's what it has to say. And that single sentence is the thesis. Everything about technique and style and 12-tone systems, that's all secondary. Then comes the claim that makes the passage interesting. Schoenberg captured emotional states that music had never recorded before. And the very last sentence loops back to the opening quote. The critics call the music incoherent and shrill. The author says no. It's disturbing because it tells the truth. Same words, totally opposite meaning. The passage is a closed circle. Now, the key move here is that bait and switch at the top combined with the rebuttal at the bottom. The opening quote sets up critics as wrong by connecting them to those who trashed Beethoven. The closing sentence takes their exact language and redefines it. The disturbance is the point. Now, the author believes Schoenberg is essential and unfairly dismissed. Here is where students go wrong. The passage spends a lot of time on Schoenberg's 3 musical styles and the 12-tone technique. So it's tempting to think the passage is about his innovations, but it's not. The author flat out tells you that's not what matters. You can expect a main point answer choice that mentions the 12-tone system or Schoenberg's role in musical evolution. And that answer is going to feel right because you will remember reading about those things. But it's wrong. The right answer will focus on emotional expression and the unfairness of the criticism. Before you get to the questions, check yourself on 3 things. First, why does the author use a quote about Beethoven to open a passage about Schoenberg? Second, what does the author say is the real measure of any piece of music? And third, what is the Brahms comparison in paragraph 3 actually doing? Is it a fun fact or is it part of the case the author is building?